We thought the off-season was supposed to be quiet, maybe a few driver rumors, some livery reveals.
Right.
Instead, a technical bomb has just gone off, and it's threatening the entire start of the 2026 Formula One season.
Oh, absolutely. This is not some minor infringement. We are talking about a deep dive into the 2026 engine regulations.
Specifically targeting Mercedes and Red Bull powertrains.
Exactly. And the controversy is so huge that formal complaints are already with the FIA from Ferrari, from Honda, from Audi. Everyone is demanding action.
The stakes are just enormous. I mean, we could be looking at a situation where four major teams might be disqualified before a wheel is even turned.
It's chaos.
So our mission today is to give you the complete picture. Let's get right into it. What is this technical trick that has the entire paddock in an absolute meltdown?
It all comes down to one single critical number in the thousands of pages of regulations.
The compression ratio.
The compression ratio.
Okay, so for anyone listening who isn't a mechanical engineer, let's break that down. What exactly is a compression ratio?
Think of the cylinder in an engine. The ratio is just how much the air and fuel mixture gets squeezed between the piston's lowest point and its highest point.
So the higher the number, the bigger the squeeze.
And the bigger the squeeze, the more violent the explosion, more power, more efficiency. Simple as that.
And the 2026 rulebook mandates a ratio of exactly 1 to 16.
16 times. That is the legal limit.
And the allegation, the rumor that's setting fire to everything,
is that Mercedes and Red Bull powertrains have somehow managed to achieve a ratio of 1 to 18.
18, so they're squeezing it 2 more times. Now, that might not sound like a huge difference, but in F1 terms, what's the real-world gain?
It's the definition of a game changer. By getting to 1 to 18, you are extracting way more power from the exact same amount of fuel the rules allow. This isn't a small gain.
No, this is a leap.
This is a massive leap.
So give us the numbers. What does that translate to on stopwatch?
Okay, so the reports are suggesting this is worth approximately 15 horsepower.
15.
15 horsepower in a sport where teams will spend millions, literally millions, for 1 or 2. On a typical track, that 15 horsepower is worth around 0.3 of a second per lap.
0.3 a lap. Okay, and that's where the math gets terrifying for the other teams, isn't it?
Absolutely, because you take a race like, say, Albert Park in Australia, 58 laps.
Right.
You multiply 0.3 by 58. All of a sudden, you're looking at a 17.4-second advantage over the entire race.
It's 17 seconds. Just handed to you. No other part on the car, no wing, no floor can give you that.
Nothing. This is why the paddock is demanding the FIA shut this down right now.
Okay, so here's the billion-dollar question. If the rule says 1 to 16, how on earth are they passing the FIA's checks with a 1 to 18 engine? This is the genius or the illegality of the whole thing.
It all comes down to physics, specifically the difference between hot and cold.
Okay.
The FIA regulations state that the compression ratio check must be performed in cold conditions. Ambient temperature in the garage.
So in the garage when the engine is off.
In that static, cold state, both the Mercedes and the Red Bull engine measure a perfect, legal 1 to 16. They pass the test.
But F1 cars don't race in the garage.
Exactly. The moment that engine fires up and gets to its insane operating temperature, the materials inside, the piston head, the cylinder walls, they expand. It's called thermal dilatation.
Like a steel bridge on a hot day.
A perfect analogy. They've engineered that expansion. So when the engine is hot and running on track, that expansion actually shrinks the combustion chamber just enough to create the higher, more powerful, and very illegal 1 to 18 ratio.
That is just an unbelievable level of engineering audacity.
It's brilliant and incredibly risky.
If you're watching this on YouTube, welcome to DRS Zone. Don't forget to subscribe for more F1 content.
This segment is part of our news coverage of recent F1 events.
Okay, so let's get into the regulatory nightmare this creates, because Mercedes and Red Bull can just turn around and say, hey, we passed the test you told us to do.
That's their defense. Your rules say measure it cold, we measured it cold, it's 1 to 16. End of story.
But the FIA has a safety net for this kind of thing, right?
They do. It's Technical Regulation Article 1.5, and it's a catch-all. It basically says the car must comply with the regulations entirely during the whole duration of the event.
The whole duration, so not just in the garage.
Not just in the garage. This clause is their weapon against tricks they can't physically measure at 300 kilometers an hour.
So you have this huge conflict. Mercedes passed the specific written test. But the FIA will argue they violated the spirit of the rule and this all-event clause.
And this is not a new fight. This is the exact same gray area we saw with the flexible wings controversy.
Right. They passed the static load tests in the pits.
But on the straight, at speed, they bend down for a huge aero advantage. The FIA's problem is always the same. How do you measure this stuff dynamically in real time? You can't.
And the political pressure is ramping up. We heard Ferrari and Honda went in hard last week demanding answers.
They did. But then, crucially, Red Bull powertrains and Audi also formally asked for clarification.
Wait, why would Red Bull ask for clarification if they're supposedly using the trick?
That's the 4D chess of F1 politics. By asking, they protect themselves. They can say, look, we felt the rule was unclear, so we asked. It shields them from the accusation that they deliberately hid it.
And this brings us to another key part of the rulebook.
Article 1.5 again. It says a team may ask the technical department for clarification on a new design.
The key word there is may, not must.
And that one word is everything. That's the gamble Mercedes took.
Because if they had asked the FIA, hey, is this hot versus cold engine idea legal?
The FIA would have shut it down instantly, a technical directive would have gone out to all teams, and the advantage would be gone before it ever existed.
But by staying silent, they took a calculated risk to gain this massive head start, daring the FIA to try and catch them.
It's a high-stakes poker game, and it leads to an impossible situation for the governing body.
Let's talk about that fallout, because recent reports suggest Mercedes simply cannot fix this engine in time for Australia. This isn't a simple software patch.
No, it's fundamental to the engine's design, its materials. So the FIA is now staring down two politically disastrous options.
Okay, lay them out. Option A.
Option A is the nuclear option. The FIA stands firm, they declare the engine illegal.
The consequences of that.
Devastating. 4 teams, Mercedes, Williams, Alpine, and the reigning champions McLaren, all show up to the first race of a new era with illegal power units.
8 cars, potentially out of the race.
Yeah.
That would be a credibility crisis for the entire sport.
A total disaster. Sponsors, broadcasters, it would be a nightmare.
So that brings us to option B.
Yeah.
Let's call it the Ferrari 2019 option, the backroom deal.
Exactly. Option B is the FIA pulls Mercedes aside and makes a quiet, gentleman's agreement.
So what, they let them run the 1-18 engine for 2026?
Yes, on the condition they deliver a guaranteed fully legal 1-16 engine for 2027, they basically give them a 1-year free pass.
But the rest of the paddock will go ballistic. That creates so much toxicity.
Oh, it guarantees an outcry. Because everyone remembers the secret Ferrari engine settlement. No one knows what was in that deal. This time, Ferrari, Honda, Audi, they would demand full transparency. They would see it as blatant favoritism.
And this is where the political power really shows. Mercedes Motors, 4 teams. Red Bull, 2. That's over half the grid between them.
It's incredible leverage. The FIA has the teams who followed the rules screaming for disqualifications and the teams who found the loophole holding 6 cars hostage.
And how did this all come out in the first place? It's classic F1 espionage, right?
The story is that an engineer moved from Mercedes to Red Bull powertrains and took the secret with them, which is how Red Bull was able to copy the trick.
It just never changes. So this is the ultimate question then. Is this ingenuity or is this a fundamental breach of integrity?
Look, this is in the DNA of Formula One. Ross Brawn always quoted the art of war. Win the battle before you take to the field. This is what that looks like in engineering terms. Finding the loophole is part of the game.
But there is a potential compromise here, isn't there? A middle ground.
There is. Some have suggested Mercedes could run a compromise geometry. Start with, say, a 1-15 ratio on cold, knowing that when it heats up, it will expand to the legal 1-16, but not beyond.
So they'd sacrifice some of that 15 horsepower, but they would be operating in a legally defensible position.
Precisely. It would be a gesture of good faith, but they'd still lose the main advantage.
And the FIA tried to warn against this. I remember Nicholas Tombazzi saying that any team that exploited a gray area without asking for clarification first was committing suicide.
He did. It was a very strong warning about playing in the gray areas. But the problem is, that's a statement. It's not a rule in the technical regulations with a specific penalty attached to it.
Right. The rule book says you may ask, not you must.
And because there's no penalty for not asking, a team like Mercedes felt empowered to take that risk.
So this is the final debate for everyone listening. The rules were the same for all the manufacturers. Is this cheating, or is it just supreme cleverness from Mercedes and Red Bull finding a gap that Ferrari, Honda, and Audi all missed?
That's the core of it. We saw this with the double diffuser back in 2009. I remember Willem Tellett, who was at Sauber, saying that when a trick like that comes out, the other teams ask two questions: how much to copy it and how much to get it banned.
And getting it banned is often faster and cheaper.
Exactly. The fact that the other teams are fighting so hard to make this illegal tells you they can't easily copy it. In F1, you often have to reward that kind of cleverness.
But the clock is ticking. We're not far from cars hitting the track in Australia. It just seems impossible that the FIA would actually remove 8 cars from the grid.
No, it's extremely unlikely. This won't be resolved with a technical ruling. It's going to be political.
Yeah.
A compromise will be found behind closed doors because the integrity of the championship is on the line. They have to save the season.
So we leave you with this final thought. In a sport built on pushing boundaries, do you reward the genius that finds the loophole? Or did the FIA have to step in to protect the spirit of the competition, even if it means rewriting the rules on the fly?
We're waiting for an official clarification from the FIA. But until we get it, this high-stakes game of chicken continues.
We hope this deep dive gave you a clear and thorough understanding of the drama unfolding ahead of 2026. Don't forget to follow the deep dive on all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We'll see you soon for the next deep dive.